Hi again, everybody. I'm Jamie Allison, and this is the Big Idea, Big Moves podcast. This is the destination for high performers. We talk to people from different genres, different niches, just people doing really cool things in their space. So we talk to lots of athletes, but we also talk to CEOs, entrepreneurs, scientists. We have an astronaut coming up soon. So lots of just really cool people that we can take little bits and pieces of their journey and their story and hopefully implement them in our own lives. And so today, just before we jump into the interview, and actually this is really related, funny enough, is that one of our sponsors right now is High Sports in Durham, so in the Greater Toronto area. They're a new kind of pickleball indoor facility, and they are right now probably the basically the capital of pickleball in Ontario. And I was out there last week. Really cool place. So go out and check out Alex and the crew out there, or you can go over and see highsports.ca, and you can book your or get memberships at their courts and all of those different things as well. So so really cool connection with who we get to speak to today. Really happy to be able to speak to one of the top pickleball players in the world right now, Jay Devilliers. He's one of the most popular people on tour as well, which is really cool. He consistently earned top spots in finals in all three divisions of pickleball. So he's kind of across the board there. He's originally from France, from what I understand, moved to the U.S. to play tennis at Wichita State University, and then he transitioned into pickleball, I think, in 2019. So not a whole long time ago. So I know he's jumping between kind of media stuff, and then he is getting ready for a big tournament this weekend. So just first of all, thanks for taking the time for us, Jay. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be part of that.
Yeah, well, maybe the first thing is, you have, I think, been an athlete kind of all of your life from the sounds of things. But why don't you talk about that first of all? Because I mean, obviously, you've had a bit of a real path to get to pickleball. But going back, I mean, I think back in France and Spain, you did a lot of different sports. Is that right?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. My mother was a professional team handball player. So she really wanted me to be an athlete, and I loved sport right away. So at a very young age, when I was three years old, I picked up my first tennis racket and started playing soccer. And yeah, from there it just kept increasing. Kind of, I played more sports. I started skiing. I then played team handball as well. I had two. Played some rugby, badminton, ping pong. So I was touching a bit everything just to see what I really liked. And then the two sports I was better. Let's put it that way. I decided to go with tennis and soccer. And at 14, I had to make that tough decision to choose one or the other. Um, and yeah, tennis was the right path for me. I decided then to go to Spain to train, to
Yeah.
try to reach my dream of becoming a professional tennis player. And then after several injuries and not reaching the level I was supposed to make money and things like this, I decided to go to the States. And yeah, and then I found pickleball in 2019.
Yeah. Well, and talk about that. I mean, that's it seems like pickleball is one of those things now that people have found either after something else or a little bit later in their career. What was it that appealed to you when you first tried pickleball? Because it wasn't that long ago, which is kind of cool that you must have tried it recently. And what was it that jumped out that thought, oh, this is maybe a sport I might really enjoy?
Yeah, no, it's crazy because I never thought I was going to play pickleball because I was really into tennis still
Yeah.
back in 2017, 2018. I was working to try to become a director for tennis,
Hmm.
and then I got an opportunity in December 2018. I got an opportunity to become a pickleball director.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, if I'm going to be the director, I need to learn how to play. And from there, I started playing, got into it way more, and just really loved the fact that I could compete similar to tennis.
Yeah.
And I felt like my chances were higher at that time, but maybe I could, play full time.
Yeah.
And so in 2019 was just the discovery for me, playing some tournaments here and there, did fairly decent, and then 2020 I was like, I'm gonna go for it. I'm just
Yeah.
gonna try and do my best. And after 3 months, literally COVID hit,
Yeah.
and so it was like from March to August, nothing was happening, and I was like, oops. So I had told my wife, please give me 6 months to see if I can make a living out of it, if it's worth it. And after 3 months, everything shut down, and I was in August. I was gonna try again, and she goes, "Well, 6 months is gone now." And I was
Yeah.
like, "Well, hold on here. This doesn't count, okay? This doesn't count."
Yeah.
But yeah. So this is pretty much how everything started,
Yeah.
and I'm glad I did keep going because you know pickleball has been so great. Like the community is amazing, and I just feel like even from me coming from the tennis world, um, I was not getting that out of tennis. Tennis is a little bit more selfish, I would say, on the professional tour. It's more like you have to care a lot about you. It's not like as much social, and so
Yeah.
I've just enjoyed the game so much more, and yeah, very pleased to play pickleball.
Yeah, well, and you play when you play doubles, you play with a lot of the other high level like that. That's got to be kind of cool. That not only are you excelling on from the singles side, but you're also playing with some of the. I mean, I know you play with Tyson a lot. Has that been a cool experience? Kind of being able to connect with other top players really quickly as well.
Yeah, no, it is very nice. I mean, 2021, when I this is really was my breakthrough kind of. I was mixing around. I was playing mostly with Patrick Smith. That was my
Hmm.
main partner, but took a bet on me as well because he
Yeah,
didn't play much pickleball before that. So we decided to go together as a team, and we did fairly well. And from there, I just played with other players, and I've realized how tough it is to play with different players, but it's also very inspiring in a certain way because you
yeah,
just got to evolve and learn how to combine. And sometimes very good players can play very well together as well. You could be
yeah,
playing with the number one and you're the number two, and still maybe it doesn't work. So it's really about creating that team chemistry that is not easy. I've been blessed that I've had good partners almost from the start, I would say.
yeah,
But yeah, the better you get, the easier it is to find good partner. But it's also hard to find the partner that will match your chemistry as well to do well. So in tennis, I felt this was much easier because the game is fairly played the same way, and it's who
hmm,
is executing the best. Where here it's just for doubles, it's a lot of strategy, different game style, and you have to
yeah.
find the match. So
Well, and that's you hinted to it there a little bit is how much of it is strategy, especially in kind of doubles where it does slow down a little bit differently and things like that. Um, when you went from tennis over to pickleball, because a lot of people, some people take to it really quickly or do, and then maybe don't progress with it and struggle with it a little bit. Others, it's just obviously the tennis background is fantastic and translates very quickly. What was the most challenging thing for you to come from tennis into pickleball, and what is it that you think trips up some tennis players when they come over thinking because you assume I'm just going to be really great at pickleball because it's a slower kind of game. What's the difference for you and when you were doing it?
yeah, no, this is kind of the biggest mistake of tennis players. I feel like because they think I'm a good tennis player, I'm going to be a good tennis player,
Hmm.
which is fairly true, but that doesn't mean you're going to turn to a great player.
Yeah,
Um, the game pickleball is a different sport. It looks similar to tennis, but it is a different sport. The way you have to play, you got to learn strategy. Like the way you hold the grip is not the same as what you would do in tennis. So some
yeah,
tennis player will translate better, quicker because of the grip they're holding. But it's also like I feel personally the toughest thing for me was like I played a lot of doubles in college. I really enjoyed doubles. That
yeah,
helps a lot.
yeah,
But it's also tough because in tennis you try to close the net, you try to be very aggressive in doubles and things. In pickleball, you have to stay behind that kitchen line, lean, use your quads, use your hip gets very sore. So it's different muscles that you're working, different movement. You're not cross stepping in pickleball. You're just moving side to side, more lateral. So things like that takes a little bit of time for players to come and become very good player.
Yeah.
Again, like I feel like when you have tennis background, that's the easiest to that that we translate the easiest to pickleball. But that
Sure.
doesn't mean you're gonna be great. And I think we're seeing that more and more. A lot of great tennis players are trying to make the switch kind of, and
Yep.
they're not dominating like some people thought they would be. And I just think it takes time, to really master the game. So, so
Yeah,
yeah.
no, that's a great answer, and I think that is a lot of people are surprised sometimes that okay, you get these really high level tennis players thinking they're going to kind of jump into it, and they obviously take to it quickly, but maybe don't necessarily progress to the level that you'd expect right away, and so that's really interesting for people. Um, you know, I going along with that, Jay, how do you like? What is a day of training like for you? Because obviously you have to train a lot as a professional in the sport
Yeah.
itself, but do you also do other things like do you have to be in the gym a lot? And if you do, what kind of things do you do that might be different for playing pickleball than other things?
Yeah, I mean, for me, this was the hardest thing as well. Coming from tennis, you have a down seasons kind of where you can do a preseason and work harder and push. And in pickleball, there is no down season. I mean, you can choose to not play some tournaments, but there are always tournaments available to play. So it's a bit different. My training changes a lot based on when I'm competing, when I'm not competing, how much time in between tournaments,
Mhm.
things like that. I, I'm gonna be fully honest with you. I'm not gonna go to the gym and lift and try to work on getting stronger when I have 1 week between the next tournament. It would
Yeah.
not be smart. My chances of getting injured are much higher. So I will work based on that. If I have 3 weeks off, maybe I will do some different kind of training, maybe a
Mhm.
little bit more, working on my cardio based on everything. I'm just working around my schedule and the time I have, and then I implement my workout.
Yeah.
But when, let's say, I'm not on tournaments and I'm at home, I will try to get between 2 to 4 hours of pickleball, and then do my 2 hours training
Yeah.
on the gym. And that could be like lifting, that could be stretching, that could be working on the core, that could be working on my cardio. Like so, again, like I have kind of a program structure based on how I'm feeling, how
Mhm.
if I'm trying to recover, I will work maybe more on the stretching part and being more flexible and things like this. And then I have a routine as well where I have kind of something structured that I have to do on constant basis. But that's pretty much how everything works
Yeah.
for me. But that has been the toughest challenge, to be honest.
Yeah, well, and because yeah, I mean, a good example is that you're jumping from one place to another. You're doing that right now. Like literally, we're talking while you're
Hmm.
getting ready to go into another place for
Yeah.
another tournament. When you're doing that, you mentioned. I mean, you have a family. You have all of the other things that go along with that. You want to also probably have some social life. Is that difficult to do, and how do you try to balance that as much as possible when you're traveling lots and going to lots of tournaments and spending the whole weekend because you're in multiple divisions usually too?
Yeah, no, I always play the three divisions, so um, I'm not gonna lie to you, it's pretty tough. It's tough. It takes a toll on you a little bit, but I'm very lucky that my wife is very supportive. I
Hmm.
have three little boys at home as well, so I try to spend as much time as possible with them when I come back home.
Yep.
And I try to bring them on some tournaments as well.
Hmm.
This year it's been a bit tougher because my little one is just 1 month old right now, so it was
1 month.
a bit tougher to travel.
Yeah.
But usually that's what I try to do, like to when it's a longer stretch, I try to bring them at least to one, so I don't feel too lonely, kind of,
Hmm.
and so for them also to not feel like I'm not present at all. But yeah, definitely the toughest aspect of being a professional athlete. I feel like um, a lot of players from our sport that I talk to are saying the same.
Well, and that is the one thing because there are a lot of events, and I'm sure that can be difficult when you're a professional and trying to build the sport. Because the other thing is that pickleball is growing so much right now. Have you seen a lot of that growth? And I know that you also, I think, also help as kind of an ambassador in France as well. So, how do you see that growth happening, and how has it really been changing even since in the small time you've been in the sport?
in 2019, um, the tournaments were not the tournament they are now.
Yeah.
There are people that are investing constantly now. I think it's just very exciting. Every month you have something new that is coming. So every month you're like, kind of, what is coming next? You know. So
Yeah.
it's very exciting. But regarding France, I try to implement new things. Very just the process is very slow.
Yep.
The resources are limited still, so
Yep.
step by step. But I think eventually it will catch up because the sport is so engaging overall. Like it's reach out to every age. It's very simple to pick up, very hard to master. So I think it has that easy aspect, that complexity if you want to be good as well. So I think it's just a matter of time and more people seeing it, and yeah, from there I think it's gonna grow as well there.
Yeah. I love that way of saying it, is that it has an easy entry. It's just it takes a long time to master and get good at. So that is kind of a special sauce part of why it is growing so much. Maybe that's the one thing I just, for you over the next little while, what like, do you have, are you a goal setter? Do you write everything down? Do you figure out kind of, this is what I want to do this year? Or is it just you're kind of taking it as it goes? So how do you approach that yourself?
I always put goals, um, but it's more like to challenge myself and to keep pushing, to not fall in the trap of, oh, I'm convenient, like I'm happy with what I have. I feel like that's one of the mistake. I always look to be better, so that's why I set my goals, but I'm not like, I don't get the disappointment if I don't reach the goal, if that
Yep.
makes sense. Those goals are just here present to motivate me and keep pushing and motivate me. It's a journey. You're not betting on short term, you're betting on long term. It's easy to get more negative. It's like, oh, if you come and say I want to win that tournament and you don't win it, then you're like, oh, am I good enough? You're starting
Right.
questioning yourself a lot. So for me, it's, I try to win every match step by step, and if I do the right thing, I feel like eventually things will turn right. So um, it has always worked for me so far like that. So I like that kind of mindset,
Yeah.
and try to stay positive. Because it's easy again to fall into negativity and things like that. So always try to find something to relate. So the goals help me do that, and find happiness as well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's what people say about you too, is that it's your attitude and your positive attitude that is what draws everybody to you. I think even just spectators and everything too. So it's obviously a big obvious thing for you. Um, okay. So one thing that we always do, Jay, is that we always try to have a couple of actionable things from our guests, and I know they've probably heard lots of cool things, especially if they're either just being introduced to the sport, which we probably have lots of those people, but also some people that are really passionate about it too. So something you mentioned is how difficult it can be sometimes learning how to work with a partner in pickleball or other things. But let's say, I mean, you have really high level people you've worked with, but you've also coached other people that maybe are just trying to figure that out. So if you were to say, are there a couple of things, like a couple of tips you have for somebody, just how can you be a good pickleball partner, especially when you're starting maybe with a new partner? Are there a couple of things that are real keys to having a good partner relationship that way?
Yeah, I think what I try to do always is to put the finger at myself, and not at my partner, and then work with what we have. You gotta focus on your strength and isolate your weakness. It's a matter of not being stubborn and try to find ways to win. There is always a way to win. It's just sometimes we're blindsided to see it just for the fact that we're so into it, or because we're mad at our partner. What I try to see is, like, I try to recognize the strength and weakness of my partner. I
Mm-hmm.
try to acknowledge my strength and weakness, and then from there we try to work something that combine. I think the hardest is when a partner is not willing to discuss with you, or try to see how to connect properly. Sometimes you have a vision, I have a vision, and if those visions don't match, then there is already a mismatch from there, and then it's
Yeah.
hard to build something. And then the trust, trusting your partners, trusting trusting the process, because sometimes Sometimes it takes one tournament. Sometimes it takes five tournaments. I love to take the example of my partnership with Jessie.
Mm-hmm.
I remember playing with her the first time, and she was a top player. I was a top player as well. So I was like the expectation how high we should do well, and we didn't do well the first tournament. And it's like you're kind of putting pressure. Like I'm a good player. I think I'm good. I should win this, but you're not winning. So,
Yeah.
but then after that, we had a good run of 6 or 7 finals in a row, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's just a matter of figuring things out. And when things don't go well anymore, it's the same thing. Is recognizing that and see how you can make adjustment or even switch. Sometimes it's important to play with different partners because it makes you become a better partner playing with different players. So
And yeah, you need to be somewhat humble to be able to do that too, I think, because you need to be able to acknowledge
yeah,
what you don't do well. And I think I think that's a great example, even just between you and Jessie. And for those people who are doing it, we'll make sure you can see who she is too, because the two of you have a fantastic partnership when you've done lots of great things together that way too. And to see that even took a while is I think probably a great thing for people to hear. So. I know you're getting ready to go to, I think, Orlando right now, because that's your next big one this weekend. If people are looking to follow you and follow what you're doing, Jay, what are some of the best ways of doing that?
yeah, I'm very present on Instagram. I have my website, pickleballj.com, so fairly simple. I didn't want to put my last name because no one can read my last name or spell it as well. So I was just thinking like pickleballj.com. So again, you will see my schedule. You will see also I run some clinics sometimes there.
Yep.
And yeah, so from there they can follow me and
All right.
Twitter, Facebook, all the social platforms.
Great. And what we'll do is, to everybody who's listening, we'll put it in the show notes so that people can click right through. You got some great stuff on your website. I noticed you're wearing your hat too, so I know you've got some kind of fan apparel stuff on there too. So make sure you check that out to everybody else. Again, I know that you're really busy and you're kind of jumping around with travel, so really appreciate you taking the time today, Jay. Thanks for taking the time with us.
Oh, it was a pleasure, Jamie. Anytime.
All right. And to everybody else, we'll talk again soon on Big Idea, Big Moves.